Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and today I'm in a 2022 GMC Hummer EV, and I want to see what it does when it gets really cold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a drive this morning. It's 43 degrees, supposed to be high of 45, so I'm about right there. And tomorrow it's supposed to be like -5 overnight, maybe even 5 in the morning, with snow and cold, high of 22 degrees, supposed to be 3 to 8 inches of snow. So gonna see what they both do, and we'll talk a little bit about pros and cons. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my phone here, and I'm going to go into trip 1. I'm gonna reset the trip 1. So I'm gonna sure reset, yes, reset. It's not 0 miles, 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on, the heat is on full, on high, it's on auto basically. And I'm gonna run the heated steering wheel and run the heated seats, and I'm gonna go for a drive, and let's see what kind of fuel economy or miles per kilowatt hour we get with this Hummer EV right now. And I'm just gonna go, I don't know, 10, 15 miles, not do a whole lot, because they don't need to, because these things are so smart, they calculate so fast. So I gotta put it in gear to go. But you know, all right, so I'm gonna show you this on the screen too. If you've missed another video of that today, but what I can see on the screen, what's cool with General Motors products, is I can see kilowatts I'm using. So I'm using 11 kilowatts to run the heated seats, everything currently at the moment, and that'll fluctuate and come up and come down as I drive and as the heat pump gets going, or the heat gets flowing, and all this stuff happens. So yeah, it'll fluctuate up and down like you would in a normal vehicle. So I'm gonna put it on screen. So as you can see, I'm driving, and I'm using kilowatts coming off the line. So I'm not like taking off. Like I could really go with this, but I'm just kind of driving normally. But you also see something too, is when I let my foot off the accelerator, it goes green. That's the recharge aspect of EVs. So when I do that, it's taking that friction energy from the charge, and it's basically slowing me back down, or slowing me down, plus taking that, recharging the battery. So I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just gonna drive. I'm gonna do 45 through here. This is kind of a downhill. This is Scottsbluff National Monument. We're going down Scottsbluff National Monument, out. I'm just gonna take some flat roads. There's a few hills here and there, but mostly flat. I'm not gonna do anything too crazy. I just wanna see, as best I can, apples to apples comparison. And I'm gonna do the same thing tomorrow, again, with the snow and the cold. We'll do the same drive and we'll see how it does. So currently it says I have 1.4 miles per kilowatt hour. And what I was doing some math the other night, thinking about, this vehicle is advertised as being 360 miles of range, and we have 212 kilowatt hour battery. That's mass storage. So kilowatts to kilowatt hours, pretty much a 1-to-1 comparison, except for there's some energy losses here and there. But let's just say the 1-to-1 for the sake of the video. So I should have, I think it's 1.6 miles per kilowatt hour is my, I believe that's what I came out with, to say 212 times 1.6 equals close to 360 miles of range. Close in that realm, right? So my target here should be 1.6 miles per kilowatt hour. That's, if I do that, then I should be able, I'm getting basically the advertised mile per gallon E equivalent, or the advertised range equivalent, for comparison to, say, the EPA's mile per gallon number on the sticker, right? So that's what I'm looking at. This is how I'm doing the test. I know there's a mile per gallon E number. There's a bunch of different numbers you can do to calculate these vehicles, but I just want to look at miles per kilowatt hour and see how it does as far as that number goes. I'm going to put cruise on, because I'm going to choose cruise control, so 55 miles an hour. It's a little chilly today. Like I said, 41 degrees. Well, it says 41 now. It's going down temperature, but I'm going to see a massive 30 degree difference by tomorrow. It's not windy. Well, it's not windy for western Nebraska. If you live out here and you know, if when it stops blowing, we all fall over because it's always leaning in the wind. It's so windy out here. But yeah, I'm just kind of driving around. I've done 2 miles. I'm stuck at 1.4 miles per kilowatt hour, and my heated seat has actually dropped down to setting number 1. This one fascinating with this vehicle is that it'll adjust for you without you thinking about it. Just kind of like, sometimes I look over and I'm like, I want my heated seat on higher, what's going on? And it turns it down. But I'm gonna turn down this, it's getting kind of warm in here. So I'm gonna turn down this fan speed. That's one of the nice benefits of this vehicle, is that it heats up really fast in the cabin. Like 20 seconds I got hot air. So, but still I'm gonna go about 10 miles, because I just feel like 10's the right approach. So I'm gonna come back here a little bit, and tell you what it did. Then we'll go tomorrow and see how that looks. Okay, coming up to the spot where we started, looks like the mile per hour or mile per kilowatt hour is going to be 1.2. And that's going to be our number. I'm going to show you some footage here. It's really impressive how I went down the highway and just kind of cruised along. But then I also took some video coming up over the top of the monument. And you can see how much energy usage it used to get over the top of the hill. It's interesting because, you know, this is your tachometer in a way. This is how much you're going, how much energy you're putting out. So that's kind of interesting number. Also, it's 1.7. I double checked it with it's 1.7. So 1.7 times 212 is like 360, and so that's right in that number we're trying to hit. So it's, again, right now it's 44 degrees. Not gonna hit that number, but I want to see what happens tomorrow. Is it a big difference tomorrow when it's 20-some degrees colder? And what's going to happen? I'll also go back, look at some footage. I'll see what I can tell you as far as mile range. So a lot of people want to talk about mile range, so let's talk about that as well. Let's see what it does tomorrow. All right, it's next day, and it happened. So we got about 3 to 5 inches of snow overnight. It is currently like 15 degrees, 20 degrees. Let's see what my phone says right now as of this moment. Survey says, survey's updating, update, 17 degrees with the drizzle. Feels like 10 when I looked at it earlier. So, and it's still snowing, 90% chance of snow, 17 degrees. So a dramatic change from yesterday. So I'm going to start it up. And what's cool about this type of EV, and this EV specifically, I think GM products have this, it has a heat pump built in. So I turn on auto, and it turns on heated seats, turns on heat steering wheel from already, and then within like 20 seconds I'll have hot air, which is pretty darn important. But I'm going to turn that down for now and talk on the camera. So I wanted to go over a couple things real fast that I did some math this morning. I know math's not always my strongest point, but stay with me. So if we say the battery is 212 kilowatt hours, right? What we're going to look at is 212 times 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, 1.1, right? So the difference is the mile per kilowatt. Right now it's saying my range is 329 miles, and at 1.4 miles per kilowatt hour was the prior trip. Now, that doesn't equal my numbers, because my numbers at 1.4 should say 297 miles, 1.3, 276, 1.2, 254, 1.1, 233. What does that mean? That means for every 0.1 mile per kilowatt hour drop, I lose 21 miles of range, and it's about 6% of the total charge of the battery, according to the numbers that are published online and numbers I did here on a sheet of paper. So I would anticipate, you know, if I'm going to drive around today, it's going to be cold, I'll have the heater on, that kind of stuff. I would anticipate I'm going to be down to 1.0, which is 212, straight up, right? Or 0.9, which is 190. So I'm anticipating losing 40-some miles of range. That's my assumption. Okay. So let's get on the road, because I'm really curious to see what this does in the snow. And actually, I'm going to go through my alleyway, because my alleyway is always really covered. So I'm going to go out over here. Now, what's interesting about this is basically, for lack of a better term, it's all-time four-wheel drive or all-time all-wheel drive or whatever you want to view this, because I have 2 electric motors. There's no shifting for four-wheel drive, different drive modes, and I don't believe I have a snow mode. Let's double-check that. It's turning on drive modes right now. And the other thing to consider is this is 9,000 pounds. So I have off-road, terrain mode, which is just rocky kind of stuff. I have tow haul mode, normal mode, that's it. So I have 9,000 pound vehicle, really heavy, and the exciting part with EVs for me in a snow time environment is the battery is right in the middle of the vehicle. So I should be really well balanced as far as no slipping and sliding, right? So I don't have a big engine in the front, no the rear-wheel drive in the back. I grew up in Michigan. We had front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. And rear-wheel drive, we just went drifting. We were drifting a lot earlier than when the kids started drifting. So I'm driving through this alleyway, and let me grab my phone, and I'm going to show you what this alleyway looks like on the screen. So I'm going to use basically 2 cameras here. But okay, so Scottsbluff National Monument's in the background. You can't quite make it out because of snow. But this is completely snow covered. You know, this is 3 to 5 inches of snow. Okay, you can still see on top of some vegetation, so it's not that much snow, but it's a good amount. And so right now it says I'm using 17 kilowatts of power. I was idling at 10 kilowatts of power because I'm sure I'm going to turn up that fan just a little bit. Sorry, get some fan noise, but it's freezing in here. And I'm also going to turn on the front. I turned on the max for the window. So yeah, just driving along. I mean, so you have that immediate power that you get from an EV, right? So, you know, one of the reasons that sells, and one of the reasons I could see this selling, is it's not, you know, environmentally green. It's going to be eventually over time, but this is not the environmentally green vehicle. This vehicle exists because it has a battery electric powertrain. I mean, if this was a gasoline engine, this vehicle with a 40-gallon, basically equivalent of a 40-gallon gas tank, how big this battery is compared to, let's say, the Ford F-150 Lightning that has a 131 kilowatt battery. This is 212. You know, you'd have to do a 6.2 liter turbo high performance engine, supercharged, premium fuel only. You see that in the Cadillac Escalade V, and that thing would be, you know, sucking down the fuel. It'd be a massive suck. So it'd be really expensive to charge or to fill up. But in this case, I can charge this at home from empty to full. I'm gonna spend 20, 30 bucks. And so for me to get a vehicle like this, to be able to drive like this and be that cheap to fill up, I mean, that's kind of a win-win-win. And I can see why people buy it, right? So it's smooth, it's powerful, it's quiet, it's full of tech, it's cheap to operate. You know, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. The idea this is gonna, you know, save the planet, that doesn't make any sense to me. Now, eventually, the more you drive it, the more you'll use less CO2 emissions, the more it's gonna be beneficial. But wow, I am just cruising around the neighborhood. Like, this is simple. This is, you know, I mean, would a four-wheel drive truck do the same? Sure. If I had this in four-wheel high, if I had all-wheel drive, it'd be a similar driving experience I could see with a gasoline engine. But I just, from a total like gut feeling standpoint, I have a lot more confidence in this. And then regenerative braking. So I take my foot off the accelerator, and the motor will stop itself. That's really cool because typically you have to, you know, anti-lock brakes. You have to feather the brakes, be cautious when you're braking. I don't have to worry about braking with this. I'm not going to worry about it. And if I hit the accelerator a little sideways there, you know, it's expected, right? This is slippery conditions. Let's go for that drive. So I just went around the neighborhood and maybe spent a mile. I don't know if that. I go up my hill and go over just because this hill's always nasty. They actually put sand down in the front up here because we always have vehicles spinning out. So this is going up an incline. You go over the crest of the hill and you go down onto the road. So I'm here at the incline and I'm going up over the hill and I'm going down the road, on the road. That was super simple. So yeah, I don't know. This is pretty easy, pretty knowledgeable. You know, as far as I'm just, you know, this is simple. This is I would think for those people that have a nervous time in the wintertime, an EV might be something to look at, except for range, right? So looking at those numbers and saying I'm going to do 21% less, or, you know, or 21 miles less, and all that kind of stuff, you know, what does that really mean? Well, for me, the longest trip I typically take is I go to Fort Collins. There's nice restaurants down there, shopping, get out of town, and it's a couple hours away, so it's not too much of a day trip, right? So there is a fast charger in Wellington, Colorado that I could stop at. It's 129 miles away. If my range was going to be, say it's going to be 212 miles or 230 miles, I would probably stop at that charger on the way down and get 20-30 minutes of charge, and probably on the way back I'd probably get 20-30 minutes of charge just to make sure I have enough charge to get home. For a summertime day when, you know, no wind, sunny skies, I could probably make it down there, and then on the way back I might charge for 20-30 minutes. So what I'm saying is, because that charger's in Wellington and that's where I'm driving through, on a snowy day it's probably going to take me 20 to 30 minutes longer for that trip, on top of how long it takes for driving in snowy conditions, right? So you're not doing 80 miles an hour unless the roads are clear and there's no ice, and you're driving more defensively in the wintertime. So, you know, that trip is just going to be a longer trip for the snow time driving, plus I'm going to have to charge one more time on that trip, is my theory. And so I actually should reset this. So Oh, you know what? I did it right over here. I'm going to reset this right over here, because this is where I set it up the other day. So let's get to our halfway. I forgot I did that. Good thing I'm talking to you on the camera. I remembered. All right, so I'm going to get to the halfway point, and I'm going to go over and make sure I do reset it. It's a 20-mile point. So it's going to be right here by the monument. And I'm going to get, okay, right about here. So I'm going to reset. So right now it says 1.5 miles per kilowatt hour when I reset. It's so funny. It was like 1.3, then I reset to 1.5. I don't know. All right, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn on the heat and stuff, get warmed up in here. And then when I come around, I'm going to give you my final thoughts and what these numbers are. And let's see what it does in the wintertime. Let's see what is the real range loss. Again, people tell me it's 5%, it's 2%, it's 6%. Who knows? I want to know. So that's why we're doing this test. Yeah, it should be fun. All right, we're nearing the home point where I'm going to reset the tripodometer. I'm going to tell you the details. At 19 miles, I'm going up a hill. Yesterday I showed you a video of going up this hill, and I'm not going to take my hands off the wheel today, but it's still impressive. I'm not getting much slippage to these tires. I'm a little bit sideways, a little bit coming up this hill. This hill is full of ice and slick roads, but overall, not a big deal. Now, if it's snowing like it is today and the roads are icy like they are, I'd probably skip this hill. I can go around the other way and not have to go up and down. But I thought, what the heck, let's do it with a Hummer. And I got to tell you what, as an overall, on the overall driving from here and out and back, this thing's a stud off on the snow and ice. I mean, it was a pleasurable drive. I was actually looking around these dirt roads full of snow thinking, man, I want to go do some donuts. Like I had a lot of fun driving this back and forth. It's not that bad at all, and it's surprisingly how well it manages in the snow. I would say that whatever I'm seeing some range loss for sure, but you know, I mean, talk about peace of mind. You know, with the off-road tires, with all the torque and the suspension, air suspension raised up, locking the front differential and rear differential. I mean, if I get into a ditch, I'm not staying for long. I'm powering my butt out of that ditch because this thing's got all the capability to do it. So overall, I've been pretty darn impressed, and I just about here is going to be our 20-mile point, and I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, it's just. I have nothing but good things to say. And regenerative braking. So right now it says 20 miles, 1.1 mile. Yeah, so like I said, right now it's 20 miles, 1.1 mile per kilowatt hour. Sorry, I didn't hit record on my phone. But look at this. Look at regenerative braking. So I'm taking my foot off the accelerator, and look how smooth that is. I'm not sliding around. My back end's not coming out. I'm coming to a safe and complete stop without using my brakes at all on icy roads. Now, I did not think that regenerative braking would do that. Had no idea before I started doing this test, but I am damn impressed by that as well. And talk about, again, from a safety factor, I'm not slamming on my brakes. I'm not tapping my brakes, not worrying about ABS, not worried about keeping my foot into it to keep the brakes going, not worried about any of that stuff. I just take my foot off the accelerator, and the vehicle does the magic for me. So, again, somebody doesn't like driving in the wintertime, I can see this be a benefit. So now let's talk about range. So yesterday I had 1.2, today I have 1.1, and according to my numbers, or 1.3, I think towards the end of that test, we have, going off the top of my head, either 21 miles of range loss between 1.1 and 1.2, or we're having 22 miles of range lost or 42 miles of range loss if you do 0.2 difference in the mile per kilowatt hour. And right now it says 300 miles of range, and I started with 329, so I'm off 9 miles according to its range calculation based on how I'm driving. And that range number is the same thing like the gas tank number you get from a gas vehicle. It tells you range to empty. That's not really that accurate, right? It's just going off your past driving mile per gallon in the tripodometer multiplied against how many gallons of gas you have. And so, I don't think much of that number personally, but I just look at that and think to myself, okay, so I'm going to give up 20 miles or 40 miles, 42 miles range, either 6 or 12% by driving this, but I feel a lot more confident off-road with it, or off-road, I'm saying off-road, on snow with it. So I'm a lot more confident on snow with it. I can see why Tesla owners say that their little cars get about 5% difference in range. Well, it's lighter than this. I mean, it's more aerodynamic as far as the car goes versus this. This, as an EV, is a pretty inefficient EV overall. I mean, it's too heavy. It looks like a brick. It just doesn't make sense. But from an EV standpoint of having something really cool, like I said, this can't really exist in today's world with emissions where it's at and with regulations. They can't build a gasoline version of this. It wouldn't pass emissions. And so now I can drive something that looks pretty cool, doesn't look like the rest of SUVs out there or trucks out there. I feel pretty confident on the road, on snow. I can say off-road, but on snow, and I lose 6 or 12%, depending what's happening. So that means that trip to Denver, so the trip to Fort Collins, excuse me, I go to Wellington. So if I'm losing 20 miles of range when I get to Wellington, I'll probably take 2 or 3 minutes longer at the supercharger, or fast charger, excuse me. Superchargers, Tesla trademark. At the fast charger, I'll take 2 or 3 minutes longer to charge this up. 2 to 3 minutes. At home, I'm charging about 10 miles per kilowatt hour at home on my 220. So it'd take me 2 hours longer to get that 20 miles of range back. But I'm at home. I work from home. I don't care how long this thing's plugged in. It doesn't matter to me. So yeah, that was a really interesting test. I hope you thought it interesting too. Check the videos on this channel over here. Website down below. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you down the road. Now, have a little fun.